Blog Talk Radio.
Now, South Dakota state motto is, under God, the people rule. That could just as easily be the American motto. In America, we are not, and we will not be, ever ruled by an elite class of so-called experts. We, the people, are the government.
Welcome, my friends, to the Medlock Post radio show. That was Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, in her opening comments on her state-to-state address this year. Yes, we the people are one nation under God. I'm your host, Richard G. Medlock, and this is the All-American program where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. And this is where we stand for the red, white, and blue. We are brought to you today by the United States Constitution and Dominion election machines. No. Okay. Yeah, I had to throw that in. We're going to talk about that again, too. Today is April 25th, 2023. The views and opinions on the Medlock Post radio show are the views and opinions of the host. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. And yes, that's a legal disclaimer that it's just good to put out there. April 25th, there was a thing that took place in history today that we will get to later, and it's phenomenal what has gone on since then. And we're going to talk about that toward the end of the show. This is episode 139. Our episode today is Silence is a Sin. Silence is a sin. And I'm sure you're thinking, what is he talking about? Some of you, it probably hit you. Oh, yeah. So we'll get on. Let's get some business out of the way. I was talking with someone yesterday. It was an interesting comment that he made. He said, I love America, but I am confused by the government. But I love that. I mean, that's a great quote. You know, I don't think he realized how profound that statement was when he said it. I love America, but I am confused by our government. Wow. So that really stuck with me because there's probably, and we know of millions of people that feel that way, but they don't know how to express it. And that's why at the Medlock Post, we're trying to help you express it and how to get your views out there. That was one statement. I'm going to have to do a meme with that one and put it out there. That was pretty good. As you've seen in the news, we talked about this Friday, that Fox News got rid of Dan Bongino. And then Monday, they get rid of Tucker Carlson. Now, also Monday, CNN got rid of Don Lemon. Well, folks, that's probably the equivalent of Walmart firing a checker. Hey, okay. It's no big deal. Nobody watched him anyway. Carlson was number one. Dan Bongino was in the top 10. It would vary from week to week, from 10 up to like 4 or 5. And you say, what's going on here? Well, we're going to try to get into that just a little bit to give you something to think about. You know, I love America, but Fox News is confusing. Okay. All right. Fox Nation, which Tucker Carlson and Dan Bongino were two of their biggest people listen to on Fox Nation, and you had to subscribe to Fox Nation. I never did. I said, I'm not going to waste my money on that. Their subscribers are canceling left and right for Fox Nation. I've got posts on my Facebook groups. People are just done with Fox. No more. You go woke, you go broke, folks. But people have called me and they said, Richard, what's going on here? Why are they getting rid of some of their top people? Well, number one, they were not afraid to tell the truth. We talked about that Friday. The truth shall make you free. And we're going to do a little more about that today. But understand this. Rupert Murdoch is the chair of Fox Corporation. He's not an American. He's from England. He is a member of the Council for Foreign Relations, which is a co-worker with the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, the World Economic Forum for globalism. Now, who is the chair? The next in line under Rupert Murdoch, who is the next in line at Fox Corp? Who is the director of the board of Fox Corp? Paul Ryan. Boom. Yeah, boom. Did it hit you? The anti-Trump Speaker of the House that would not help Trump one bit with his agenda. And literally cost the Republicans the House of Representatives. Almost single-handedly. So I asked the question on one of the things on Facebook. Some guy made a comment. I just posted the article about Tucker Carlson getting fired. And he made an interesting comment. And I came back and I said, I asked the question, are the wheels coming off the media right now? Are more and more people saying, the media, we don't want you. You lie to us. You propagandize. You won't tell us the truth. And yeah, you have a couple of programs that are okay, but you're really not defending America. You're really not defending the Constitution. So are their wheels coming off? It's interesting. I looked on there this morning, and a lot of people have come back and says, we think so. The tide is turning, folks. More and more people are turning away from this tyranny. They're turning away from this wokeism. Look what has happened to Bud Light. Just, they shot themselves in the foot. It was funny this morning. There's a thing on there, a meme, and it showed the symbol for Bud Light, and over to the right, it says, we made a bad decision and cost us billions of dollars and millions of customers. And below it was Fox News. It says, hold my beer. We can top you. Watch this. Okay. So that was good. Whoever came up with that, they need a prize. But are the wheels coming off? Things are turning. People are turning back to religion. And I've got an article here. It's kind of interesting. All right. Thomas Paine wrote, what we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. God created man to be free, to make up his own mind, to make his own decisions, to make his own good stuff and even bad stuff. But we have to be free to do that. I sometimes wonder if we're not free and we're forced to do all these things that are bad, are we held accountable? I don't know that answer. Never worry about who will be offended if you speak the truth. Let me repeat that. Never, ever worry about who will be offended if you speak the truth. Worry about who will be misled, deceived, or destroyed if you don't speak the truth. You just don't know who you could get to help to find the truth and make better decisions in their life. And this is where my title came from. Ezra Taft Benson. Knowing what we know, can we hesitate to raise a warning voice to all who will listen, that they may be prepared for the days ahead? Silence in the face of such calamity is sin. Silence in the face of such calamity is sin. So if we don't go back and look at the situation and say, okay, we'll be quiet now, but later on, if we want to retain our liberty, we're going to have to pay a higher price. Might even be blood. Or we can work now to secure these blessings of liberty by upholding the United States Constitution. That is a choice we as Americans have to make. Do we want to save our liberty and the Constitution today, or wait down the road and let our children or grandchildren have to fight to get it back? These are decisions right in front of our faces today. And they've been there for a long time. Now, let's talk about Emma Hessner. And you say, who is Emma Hessner? She graduated last year from Harvard University with a master's degree in psychology. She had graduated from the University of Alabama prior to that. She's conservative. The guest speaker, or the commencement speaker, was Attorney General Merrick Garland. And as he was delivering his address, she got up and walked out. She walked out of her own graduation ceremony, fed up with his speech. She said this in a recent interview with Fox Digital: "I would do it again." Here's a key to what the point we're trying to make here. She makes some great points here. She explained conservatives are coined as the silent majority. And look where that's gotten us. Students and their parents are now fighting for regular, not sexualized curriculum in K-12. And she added, as long as conservatives are silent, we are compliant with how far we let the left push their agenda. Now, folks, sear that in your brains. As long as conservatives are silent, we are compliant with how far we let the left push their agenda. We have let the enemy of America for so many years now control the narrative that's out there. In the media, in the movies, on the radio, everywhere. They have controlled the media, the narrative. We need to stop that. Why do you think Dan Bongino and Tucker Carlson were fired at Fox News? Because they did not fit the narrative. Continued. Universities should be places that teach students how to think and challenge our beliefs. They should encourage students to debate and learn from other perspectives, not put down somebody else's perspective, not just totally tune them out. Be open to other ideas. To me, someone that cannot be open to someone else's ideas has no self-esteem and no self-confidence. Why? Because they've been led down a primrose path. This is what you're going to think. This is what you're going to do. And this is how you're going to act for this purpose. And they really don't understand the true purpose. Emma goes on and says, standing up for myself and my beliefs by walking out on Merrick Garland's speech was a way for me to honor the time, money, and energy spent earning my degree, while also honoring those who actually supported me throughout school. This is a good thinker. I wish I could. I'll see if I can track her down and get her on the show. She went on to say, the support I got from strangers on the internet was overwhelmingly positive. So many people I've never met rallied behind me. I think it's partially because there aren't many signs of intelligent life, aka conservatives, at Ivy League schools who make a statement by speaking out against the propaganda otherwise pushed on us as students. I understand the criticism I received from a few, too. They believed it was hypocritical and ungrateful for me to not endure Garland's speech. Endure. Okay? Then she continued, I think it was more important to spend my graduation with my family, because at the time, pandemic, they couldn't even go. They were off in another building. So she got up and went to be with her family instead of listening to the speech. She said Garland's ideas and the content of his speech last year didn't represent me or what my academic career taught me to think independently about. Says his talk was ostracizing. and he continues to ostracize America. Now, this is where it gets pretty interesting, because she says, by the time Merrick Garland finally started speaking, it was very much, I think he was trying to be inspirational and motivating, as in, you guys are responsible for making the world a better place. And then he said, this country, she says, Garland seemed to be saying, this country sucks and you guys can fix it. Well, that didn't sit right with me. But the way it read was very much like, this country sucks and you guys need to fix it. Well, this is her thoughts about Merrick Garland. You're the Attorney General. You're someone who can make an immediate difference based on the actions and decisions you make as Attorney General. So she says it was a very easy decision for me to walk out and go be with my parents. Folks, this is dynamic. You know, here's Garland saying, "Hey, you guys, go fix all this," and she points out, "Well, wait a minute, you're in a position to do it right now." Well, folks, go back to what we've been saying over and over. They are fixing it the way they want it to be. They want to destroy the American system of government and the American way of life. So when he says fix it, he's talking to a bunch of liberals that have just gone to a very liberal university. And is he saying turn around what we're doing or continue to do? And that's the message. So the liberals, they're sitting there going, oh, yeah, man, we can fix it. We can do away with the Constitution. We can do away with all this other stuff. So he knew his audience was mostly indoctrinated liberals, or at least indoctrinated into the liberal thinking tank. Woo. All right. When I read that, it was like, wow. Now, this is how she finished out her interview. She said, I'm still working in social media at a PR firm in Virginia as a digital account manager. And then recently she commented on Twitter. And this is profound here. This lady is just, she's being guided by God, and she understands the Constitution and the rights. And then she comes out and she says this: one of the reasons young people struggle so much with mental health these days is the societal fall from God. No one is giving them a normative moral right and wrong anymore. So Gen Z are finding their identity and God in wokeism. Yeah, boom. This is such greatness coming out of Emma Hessner. It's Heussner. It could be Husner. I don't know. I'm saying Hessner. Now, listen to this quote to fill in what she's talking about here. And this quote was from the 80s, maybe early 90s, by Neil A. Maxwell. Once society loses its capacity to declare that some things are wrong per se, then it finds itself forever building temporary defenses, revising rationales, drawing new lines, but forever falling back and losing its nerve. A society which permits anything will eventually lose everything. And that's what we have done in the United States of America. And it shows. and it's prevalent out there. Just look for it. It's there. But Emma said one of the reasons young people struggle so much with mental health is the societal fall from God. They are not given any direction, any moral direction. They don't know what's right and what's wrong other than whatever you want it to be. Well, when that conflicts with society or your friends, then your mind starts going wacko. That's probably a bad word to use when we're talking about mental health. But it starts spinning, and the pieces don't fit together. Albert Einstein said, "The person who follows the crowd will go no further than the crowd. The person who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever seen before." So we're talking about here. You want to go be a sheep? Well, you're going to be stuck in that herd for the rest of your life unless you do something about it. But if you want to go further than the crowd or the herd, walk away. Make your own path. And that's what Albert Einstein is saying here. You want to go somewhere, get away from the crowd. Get away from all this nonsense. Get away from all this confusion. Get away from all this non-moral stuff that's happening out there, this lack of moral education. Get into the moral education, and you'll start finding yourself. Carson Holloway wrote in The American Mind, "Real democracy requires that citizens be unafraid to express their opinions, even when those opinions are unpopular. Citizens must have a chance to state their opinions and to persuade each other through reasoned argument or reasoned debate. This cannot happen when there is a race to see who can most ruthlessly demonize those who depart from the apparent consensus, especially if that consensus is simply enforced by the loudest, most self-righteous, and most punitive faction." We are hitting a lot of nails on the head here today, folks. This is a must-listen-to program over and over. Get your friends, send this to your friends, get them hooked on the Medlock Post, like you are. I got some great comments over the weekend about the show Friday, about the truth shall make you free. There's a lot of smart people out there, and they're trying to communicate with us right now what we should be doing. And being silent is not one of them. Like the friend that said, "I love America, but I'm confused by the government." The conversation went on, and he didn't know what to do. And I wished I had more time to talk with him, but we didn't. But that opportunity will come again. This is where we are today, folks, in America. I have a quote here. Let me bring this up. I was going to do a thing on the Supreme Court. I'll hold that to another time. But in Friday's show, I made a comment, something to the effect, I'm surprised that the Biden administration has not gone after power plants. all these emissions. They're going after automobiles and other airplanes and all this stuff. And I said, well, I'm surprised they're not going after power plants. Well, Joe's BM is going to come out this morning. White House discussing plan to tackle power plant emissions with left-wing eco groups. So that was in the works before I brought that up, folks. I hope I didn't give them an idea. But also, we talked the other day about these mortgage, how Joe's BM, his mandates concerning mortgages now are going to make good people have to pay more for bad people. Henry Hazlitt wrote this. Now, this was, Hazlitt is dead, so this was a while ago. The whole gospel of Karl Marx can be summed up in a single sentence. Hate the man who is better off than you. That's right. Continuing, never under any circumstances admit that his success may be due to his own efforts, to the productive contribution he has made to the whole community. Always attribute his success to the exploitation, the cheating, the more or less open robbery of others. Never under any circumstances admit that your own failure may be owing to your own weakness, or that the failure of anyone else may be due to his own defects, his laziness, incompetence, improvidence, or stupidity. This is what Joe Biden is doing with his BMs, Biden mandates, is doing this description of Henry Hazlitt, Karl Marx's gospel. Hate those. Make them look bad. They stole it. They didn't work for it. White supremacist. And your failure is because they stole from everything off your backs, and they got rich off of it. You remember back in 2020 when all the rioting took place after George Floyd? What was their comment? Well, Walmart stole this off my parents' back to become rich. They owe this to us. You remember that? And how many of us spoke up about that? It's like Emma says. Let me get back to her. Conservatives are coined as the silent majority. How many years decades have we heard that? And look where that's gotten us. Students and their parents are now today, fighting for regular, not sexualized curriculum in K-12. But when you speak up at a school board meeting or to a principal, you get reported to the FBI and they put you on a domestic terrorist list. This is called tyranny. Go ahead. Put me on that list, folks, because I will not be silent. And she says, as long as conservatives are silent, we are compliant with how far we let the left push their agenda. And we did that in the schools, and the parents were silent, but you also had parents that came out of that system that thought it was okay, then their children go, and now their grandchildren are going, and they think it's okay. But it's not. We look at all these people on welfare. Now, granted, there are people on welfare that need it. There are people that have disabilities or other situations that they cannot work. They cannot sustain themselves. They need help and support. But when it comes to lazy people, they shouldn't be getting, nothing. Remember, if what the comments say, never worry about who will be offended if you speak the truth. Worry about who will be misled, deceived, and destroyed if you don't. This is my dad taught me earlier. He says, I will help those that need help, but lazy people, they're on their own. They don't deserve a thing. You either get up, you want something, you work for it. That's life, folks. What God tell Adam and Eve? The sweat of your brow, you want to eat, you want shelter, it's the sweat of your brow, folks. Get up and do it. All right, take a little deep breath here. On this day in history, April 25th, 1990, Hubble Space Telescope placed in orbit by Space Shuttle Discovery. You remember that, folks? Well, let's see. That was, 33 years ago. I remember it. That was a big deal. Remember the first pictures that came back? Wow. Isn't that phenomenal? Now we see these telescopes that have gone, satellites that have gone way farther than Hubble ever went. And I mean, Hubble's still going too, or Hubble 2 or 3 or whatever is going on. We see these pictures. My son came the other day. He follows all this stuff. He says, look at this black hole they found, and it's got a trail of like 20 light years. Its trail is that long. And he says that black hole and that trail has created, there was like 6 or 8 planets. Oh, what we're seeing today is phenomenal. And that leads me to this. This is from Prager University, PragerU. And I just bumped a control. I wanted to make sure I was still on the air. Does God exist? It's a big question, isn't it? He said there's 4 new arguments. This is, what's his name? Frank Pastore. For 27 years, I was an atheist. I thought anyone who believed in a God or gods was, stupid or uneducated, naive, gullible, or just into the gig for money, sex, and power. I mean, after all, everyone knows that religion is just a psychological crutch for intellectual weaklings, right? So what changed my mind? Well, look, I tell the whole story in my book, Shattered, but for our purposes here on Prager University, I was simply challenged by my Christian teammates on the Cincinnati Reds to read some religious books, critique them, and then share with the guys where the authors were wrong, and why atheism is the only real and true outlook for anyone anyone not deceived by fantasy, fiction, or mythology. I mean, for someone who wants to base their beliefs and values upon evidence and argument, not emotion and tradition. So see, he was challenged. Some of you might remember Frank Pastore of the Cincinnati Reds. I do. Now look, simply put, I set out to disprove theism, which I didn't think would take very long. But I ran into some difficulties along the way. Difficulties like Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas. I mean, in simple terms, I was confronted with the awareness that there are really 4 big bangs that have to be accounted for, not just one. I had never really even considered that before. We're all familiar with the first Big Bang, right? It's usually the answer given to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? It's the idea that there was nothing, it popped, and boom, there's something. I mean, that time, matter and space all came into existence in some great cosmological flash about 16 billion years ago. There was no gradual development, no transitional forms, just a binary flip, a metaphysical, now you don't see it, and now you do. Fine. I want to follow the evidence wherever it leads. However, astrophysicists tell us that the first Big Bang yielded only a handful of fundamental elements, and that it would take billions and billions of years for the nuclear furnaces of trillions of stars to yield the 118 elements in the periodic table. But the first theoretical cosmological Big Bang, well, it only yields matter and energy. It doesn't even begin to address the origin of life. So how do you get life from non-life? How did a biogenesis occur? I mean, the notion that something can come from nothing, where's the evidence? Well, you're going to need another something from nothing leap of faith, some kind of biological second Big Bang. For all the mind-blowing advancements we've made in physics, biology, and chemistry in just the past 100 years, we're still no closer to making it happen. We don't have a clue. The closer we look, the wider the chasm. I mean, sure, we've learned a lot about how to manipulate life forms, how to add and subtract DNA material, even map the human genome. But we have no idea how to literally create life from dead stuff. Now look, at this point, we still only have physics, chemistry, and some basic biology, or matter, energy, and simple life, if you will. But we still don't have a way to account for the great diversity of life forms. I mean, the huge differences between bacteria, plants, and animals. Nor do we have a way to account for the differences between man and animal. We still don't have an anthropology at this point. So we're going to need a kind of anthropological third Big Bang to account for all this, which of course is what Darwin was after in his Descent of Man thesis. Now look, Darwin answered a lot of questions, but he could never answer the core question, how did evolution begin? But hey, we're still not done describing the world that is all around us. A final Big Bang is going to be required to explain how a mechanistic animal brain can become a self-reflective human mind. Even the lowest life forms have brains and central nervous systems. I mean, how does something like that become the mind of Michelangelo, a Shakespeare, a Beethoven? Come on, animals don't do art, and they don't appreciate beauty. But the problem is even more basic than that. How do you count for free will and introspection, let alone man's pressing existential drive to ask why? Well, we're going to need some kind of physiological fourth Big Bang to account for man's moral and aesthetic sense, his search for meaning, significance, and purpose, and of course, his appreciation for the true, the good, and the beautiful. And again, you must understand these problems require bangs. I mean, sudden binary pops into existence, since there's no evidence of any gradual development in any of these. So I, like you, have a choice. It's either faith in these four Big Bangs of somethings from nothings, to account for what we see all around us, or faith in some kind of creator God behind it all. So next time someone asks you, hey, what about the Big Bang? Make sure you ask them which one, the cosmological, biological, anthropological, or psychological. Frank Pastore for Prager University. We see from these pictures coming from outer space, worlds without numbers I have created. God told Moses. Worlds without number. We're seeing this. It's endless out there. I mean, when you sit there and look at something that is 2,000 light years away, a light year, light travels at 186,000 miles per second. How far is that in a year? Figure it out, times 2,000 billion years. This is amazing, folks, and that's why Frank Pastore puts the question out here. Something from nothing? No, it didn't work. It doesn't work that way. The materials are out there, and they have to be organized in a manner. Look at just the earth we live on. Everything has its purpose. Man today is trying to play God and change those meanings. And we're not silent about that either. What a day. What a day. All right. It just hit me why I picked this song. You are my little sun. Okay. S-U-N. Sunshine, folks. Sun. All right. There's a poll out there, a Wall Street Journal NORC poll, that has found that the happiest people in America value religious belief much more than unhappy people do. The number of very happy Americans is in steep decline, dropping by a striking 19.6% over the past 5 years. But those who are very happy share some common traits such as religious belief and practice. Not just belief, but they apply it to their lives. That's a big difference. I can believe something. I can believe in the theory of music, but until I apply it, I can't play the piano. While less than half of U.S. adults say belief in God is important, the number jumps significantly among those who describe themselves as very happy. The poll finds, and 2/3 of this group describe themselves as very or moderately religious. This, folks, is an interesting poll that we need to digest. It's a Wall Street Journal NORC poll. Came out just the other day. America's happiest people, belief in God is important. So we can look at this. Let me get to the highest correlation for the people saying they are very happy is belief in God, with 68% of this group declaring belief in God to be very important to them. By contrast to those that are not happy, fewer than half, 42%, say faith in God is very important to them. Along with belief in God, the very happy overwhelmingly value strong relationships, and about 67% say marriage is very important to them, independent of their own marital status, compared with 43% of respondents overall. So, folks, you want to be happy? Turn to God. When you turn to God, He's there. He's waiting for you. You've got to go to him. He's there. He's waiting. So, folks, this is April 25th, 2023, and that is the Medlock Post radio show for today. May God, whom I firmly believe in and have a testimony that he exists, bless America.